So you may have heard about the terrible bill just signed into law in Florida. It's called the Don't Say Gay Bill. Well, that's what the media call it. Only one problem, the bill doesn't actually say that. And in fact, it's such a good bill, we should probably have it here in New Zealand. Let's do a fact check on this one, eh? So last week, Florida passed a law called the Don't Say Gay Bill, which is what it was called by the media. Yep, apparently, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his Republican counterparts in the State House have officially made it illegal for teachers and students to say the word gay in public schools. Slight problem though, the bill doesn't actually have the word gay in it. So what does the bill actually say? Well, firstly, it's called the Parental Rights in Education Bill. And the legislation says this: classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. Yep, that's it. And notice that it says, let me just show you again, that it's through to grade 3. So that's about year 4 New Zealand. So that's about 9-year-olds. So 5 to 9, it can't happen. And above that, it's got to be age appropriate or developmentally appropriate. That's it. That's the bit that has outraged the radical left and elite and the media. Teachers, effectively, in Florida have been banned from giving lessons on sexual orientation and gender identity to children under the age of 9. And it must be age appropriate for students older than that. Now, Governor DeSantis and Republicans have repeatedly said that the measure is reasonable and that parents, not teachers, should be broaching subjects of sexual orientation and gender identity with their children. DeSantis said, "We will make sure that parents can send their kids to school to get an education, not an indoctrination." That's very refreshing, isn't it? Here he is presenting the bill.
And so we will continue to recognize that in the state of Florida, parents have a fundamental role in the education, healthcare, and well-being of their children. We will not move from that. I don't care what corporate media outlets say. I don't care what Hollywood says. I don't care what big corporations say. Here I stand. I'm not backing down.
How refreshing. Well done. Now, despite the media parroting the radical left and saying, "Don't say gay" to describe the bill, nowhere in the legislation is that word even used, although the word parent is used 32 times. Now, that doesn't stop Hollywood, though. Even at the recent Oscars, which was a hit for lots of other reasons, pardon the pun, but here was their best attempt at humor.
Great night tonight, and for you people in Florida, we're going to have a gay night.
Oh yeah, real funny. That was the best joke they could come up with at the Oscars. In fact, here's a great clip of the Governor DeSantis slamming a reporter who was using the phrase "don't say gay" and misrepresenting the bill. And watch the governor push back.
I want to ask you about the recommendation. Rights in education, what critics call the Don't Say Gay bill, is on the Senate floor.
Does it say that in the bill?
I know that you support.
Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill, because you are pushing false narratives. It doesn't matter what critics say.
Hold on, it says it bans classroom instruction on sexual identity and gender orientation.
For who? For grades pre-K through 3.
I know you
so
support
5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and the idea that you wouldn't be honest about that and tell people what it actually says, it's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives.
Yeah, pushing a false narrative. So effectively, it's banning those types of discussions for very young children and then saying it should be age appropriate. Sounds pretty fair and reasonable. Now, as part of this announcement in Florida, a mother shared her experience.
September of 2020, my daughter told me after school she had a meeting with school officials that was held behind closed doors where they asked her which restroom she wanted to use. I immediately contacted the school and was told by the guidance counselor and assistant principal that I could not be given any information regarding the meeting and that by law, my daughter had to be the one to authorize my notification of the meeting or attendance to the meeting. In other words, school officials asked my 13-year-old child her permission as to whether or not my parental rights would be honored. When parents are excluded from critical decisions affecting their child's health and well-being at school, it sends the message to children that their parents' input and authority are no longer important. This created a huge wedge between our daughter and us because it sent the message that she needed to be protected from us, not by us.
Yeah, well said. Polling has shown that the majority of people in Florida support the bill. Even a majority of Democrat voters support the bill. It's only the radical left and some businesses like Disney and other woke businesses that are both misrepresenting it and don't like it. And I'll come back to Disney in a later episode because the direction that Disney wants to go in should concern all parents. Now, you may be saying, well, parents in Florida must be different to Kiwi parents. They must be more concerned about the material over there. Well, actually, Kiwi parents are just as concerned. And you might remember in a recent episode of McBLOG, we highlighted a report showing that some schools are encouraging their students not to tell parents if they are identifying as the opposite sex in schools, just as we saw from the mum in the video clip. And you'll see teachers are encouraged by the ministry to keep a child's mental health issues secret from their parents by allowing a child to adopt a new persona whilst at school, preferred pronouns, without necessarily having to inform the parents. As you can see down the bottom there, they specifically advise teachers to ask young people how they would like to be referred to when communicating with their family, as some young people may be out at school, but not at home. What do Kiwi parents think? Do we need a bill like the Florida one? You bet. In fact, we've done polling on this. Almost 4 out of 5 parents are confident of their own ability to teach their children about sex and sexuality issues, and 2/3 believe that parents should be dictating any school-based teaching, not the governmental groups like Family Planning and Rainbow Youth. Now, this was the end of 2016, but then we asked some more questions at the end of 2020, and we found that only 16% think that primary age children should be taught that they can choose their gender and that it can be changed through hormone treatment and surgery if they want it to be, while 74% say they shouldn't be indoctrinated with this stuff. And you'll see that the opposition to gender ideology has grown significantly from a similar poll we did at the end of 2018. And 52% of parents think sex education should be opt-in. In other words, a parent has to opt in for their child to receive it. 36% say opt-out. And support for opt-in has increased from 34% from an earlier poll. This polling is a clear rebuke to the current government approach of using groups such as Family Planning and Rainbow Youth to develop curriculum with minimal input from parents. You see, the government is currently pursuing in New Zealand and promoting a curriculum where children are indoctrinated on gender identity ideology, the harms of gender stereotypes. They're given dangerous messages that they're sexual from birth, that the proper time for sexual activity is when they feel ready, and that they have rights to pleasure, birth control, and abortion. Now, most schools, along with parents in that school community, are rejecting the extreme elements of the new sexuality education guidelines released. And studies show that the biggest protective factors for coping with puberty and sexual involvement are parents, family values, parental supervision, and parental expectations for behavior. What happens at home is the greatest determinant of the outcomes for the young person. Put simply, this Florida bill wants to temper the ability of any teacher, woke or not, to push sexual content on kids, regardless of which side they fall on when it comes to sexual orientation and gender identity issues. And the bill also will prevent schools from encouraging a student to withhold information from their parents regarding their gender identity or other sensitive topics. Teachers will no longer be allowed to tell 8-year-olds to keep secrets from their parents about their sexual orientation or mental health. Now, if you think 5 to 9-year-olds really need to take time away from learning to read so that they can hear about transgenderism and the endless number of gender identities that they can choose from, this bill is sure to upset you. But for most of us, You're probably thinking that what we need in New Zealand is a bill just like this, the Parental Rights Bill. Just got to find a brave MP to sponsor it now, and that could be the tricky bit.